Hello and welcome to all you dads out there and all you moms. You are listening to episode 125 of the Fade U podcast. We are on Twitter at Fade U Sports. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe to the pod. Make sure you check out our YouTube page. We are kind of putting that together, so that's more good stuff coming your way. My name is Matthew James, and I'm joined tonight. We are recording on Tuesday, March 8th. We're recording about 9 o'clock p.m. West Coast time, and guys, really all that's left is Cal Poly UC Davis. I mean, who's degenning that one other than the big red Jared?
I wanted UC Davis -5.5. The line got away from me, so I just avoided. But yeah, I'll just check the score in the morning probably.
I didn't know UC Davis had a basketball team, so
Go Aggies. I went to school right down the street from UC Davis, so good shit up there in Northern California. I got a bone to pick with the Big West, by the way. Kyle, we used to go to the Big West tournament when it was played right here in our backyard at the Honda Center in Anaheim.
Oh, yeah.
Man, some good times going to watch Long Beach State versus Hawaii or UC Santa Barbara versus UCI, and they moved the fucking tournament to Henderson, Nevada.
You remember that, like in I think that was 2012 when Long Beach State, ran the table to get into the tournament. That was so exciting. That was so much fun. I can't believe that was a decade ago.
And then there was another time we were there. I can't remember if Todd was with us or not, but there was like a guy in his mid 40s, like mingling in the student section.
Oh,
do you recall this? Some weird guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think Todd was there.
Probably found his student ID from the 1980s and got in, and I don't know why he was there, but it was weird. And now we can't.
Fun, or he went back to school. Good for him. Who knows?
And now we can't go because they moved it to Nevada. So
yeah, unreal.
You guys know that makes 5 different conferences that are now having their conference tournaments in Vegas.
Yeah. How long do you guys know how long the West Coast Conference has done theirs? I know they do theirs super early, obviously, because they finish up tonight.
I mean, I figure that's been a while because I think they said yesterday when I was watching the Gonzaga game, they called the stadium Gonzaga Fieldhouse Light.
Yeah, I heard that. Or Gonzaga South or something like that.
Yeah, Gonzaga South was Vegas because it's always their conference, tournament to win.
And what arena do they play in?
New Orleans Arena.
That's right. Okay. Well, let's get you guys welcomed in here. My Twitter is at MatthewJames78. I am putting out plenty of losers these days, so you should follow that and fade my plays. And Kyle is at Kmart's _angles, and you could have faded his plays until today when he finally got some luck to break his way. So Kyle, good shit.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not dead. I'm not broken.
Not dead. Not in last anymore either.
Not in last. I think I might have jumped back up to 4th. I don't know.
Not quite.
But because you got the push, so you're just ahead of me.
Well, Neil's just ahead of you, and then I'm just ahead of Neil. So it's
okay.
3rd,
So it's
4th,
close.
5th is within a half a unit. So
okay, cool.
We got a long way to go. And then Neil, of course, is at Big Nelly Buckets. Neil, Georgia Tech. What happened there?
I think I just got caught up in the hype of Georgia Tech doing it last year when they kind of had no business. If you remember, Georgia Tech won the ACC conference tournament last year. They ran the table to get themselves into the tournament. Louisville's just been so bad. Like I really was just kind of hoping that Louisville would just roll over and end their season and be done versus Georgia Tech, who had some experience of doing this before. Didn't work out that way. Nice little 10-point L I hung.
So I want to get to that at some point. I want to come back to teams that just had horrible seasons for whatever reason. For Louisville, it was a coaching change mid-season. Like, there are teams that either underachieved or went on crazy losing streaks. Season got away from them. Shit happens. That now that they're in their conference tournament, like, is Louisville going to win the conference tournament? No. But is there an art to finding teams that might see it as, okay, we got nothing to lose at this point. Let's start over and see if we can rattle off a few wins. And Louisville beat the shit out of Georgia Tech today. So
yeah, I mean, they were up by 20 at one point.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was insane, but I mean, it's prideful. And I think we got into this topic during bowl season and college football.
Yeah.
But college basketball, I mean, it's even crazier because for an active NBA roster, you're only suiting up 12 players a night. So there's not a lot of these kids. This is it. They're playing for their basketball careers, really. So you're gonna get games. I mean, that Clemson NC State game, Sebron, that guy needs to transfer because that guy's talented. He was the whole team, and everybody else was. I don't know. They found on the streets because that was hard to watch. You know, guys missing dunks, just really bad defense, missing rebounds. You know, they had a chance to win that game, but they just couldn't execute really for the whole game. I watched most of that. So I think it's, you know, for any of these teams, you know, there's always going to be that added value, you know, with, I think, taking the points, just because you never know, you know, who's going to show up and, you know, give their Steph Curry performance.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to that, for a lot of these guys, this is one of the last times they'll play in college. If they're a senior, last time they'll be with this group. I mean, I was on the phone with my dad, my actual dad, earlier, and he's wanting to fire some bets in the Players Championship. I'm like, all right, who you like? And he's watching live from the players, and I'm like, Dad, I got to be honest with you. I'm watching the Summit League final between North Dakota State and South Dakota State. And there is something so beautiful and pure. Like when you get to the final, this is the last great chance that some of these guys are going to have to get to the big tournament. And you have these kids who, a lot of these guys are going to be like communications majors and accountants and shit. And they're out there on the basketball court giving 1,000%. And there's something so pure and awesome about that this time of year that you turn on an NBA game and you don't even get close to that.
Nothing.
Probably 19 times out of 20. Once you might get a truly epic finish. I think it was Phoenix. Phoenix beat somebody on a buzzer beater on Saturday night. And that was pretty fucking sick. But
that's right, because Phoenix used to be the youngest team in the league. So they're not far. They were, I don't know if it is this year, but last year they were one of the youngest. So they're not far removed from that college atmosphere.
Yeah. But it's awesome. I mean, and that's why we're doing this pod right now, to talk about a time of year that people love to jump into betting conference tournaments. And then people are going to be filling out brackets here in less than a week and getting ready for the real deal. So
9 days away from hanging out with all of you guys.
Oh man, it's going to be amazing. So we wanted to get this pod done. We might touch on NFL for a second at the end of the show because some pretty crazy shit happened today. But we're recording Tuesday night. Many conference tournaments are underway, but a ton are going to tip off tomorrow. Basically, almost everything that hasn't started yet starts tomorrow, other than like the Ivy League and the MAC and the American. So I'm going to try to just steer the ship and let you guys provide some insight into maybe specific tournaments you're looking at, certain teams, teams that are undervalued, teams that are so secure. Because maybe we can start with this. There is something to a team like a Duke or a Baylor or a Kansas or somebody like that losing in their conference tournament early and getting a little bit more practice time, a little bit more rest. Like a lot of these like really big schools that are ranked in the top 10, top 15 don't need to win their conference tournament. How should people look at like some of the favorites in these big conferences?
Neil, you want to start?
Sure, I can. I think with, you know, it's very specific. I think you look at like, and let's take Baylor, for example, a team who is kind of like physically beat up, who is the, you know, reigning national basketball, you know, champions. I don't think that, right, they have anything to, like Matt said, they don't have anything to prove. I think what this does provide, though, is for teams that, if you have a younger, team in general, that this becomes like a very chaotic sort of time where you just are, back to back playing great teams. You have a quick turnaround. Yes, the team that you're playing, because most of the time, coming up here, this is going to be, for a lot of teams, their third time, at least their second time, if not their third time, playing the team, so their opponent. So who you're playing, but it's a great time to really get your team out there and get experience of a crazy arena, right? Because all these major conferences, the Pac-12 going and playing in T-Mobile, ACC's in Madison Square Garden, right? So you're playing in these larger venues that you're going to see, next week when you get in. So I really think it's more about an experience. It's getting a little bit of experience. It's getting a little bit of your mojo sort of clicking, because this is going to be a different environment that many of these kids haven't seen in a really long time, many since last year, playing in a much larger venue.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of agree with that. Like, I don't think any college kid goes out there in the mindset of, I don't want to win this game. Like, I don't think any athlete, whatever caliber you are, you're okay with losing. But, the whole overlooking, we already have our, for Arizona, for instance, they're already secured, even if they lose in the first round in the Pac-12, I guess second round because of the bye, it's not going to affect them at all. But I still can't see that happening. But for, looking at other teams in every conference, think about last year with Oregon State, number 5, winning the Pac-12, just igniting them to an Elite 8. And, that was a Cinderella. It was crazy. And every year we see something like that. So for me, it's really just trying to find value. We touched on it, I think, on the last full pod with all of us, but, trying to do the research, like last week riding in, you have the Kentuckys, the Arkansas, seeing how they're playing, watching these teams as much as you can in these conference, because it truly does impact, the way they play in this tournament. And I mean,
and let's not forget, like last year, Duke and Kentucky weren't in this field of 64.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So like they got to play their conference tournament and got bounced at some point, but they never went past that. So exactly. I think, like, if you want to look at those two teams particularly, I think they have even more to prove, because this is even more of an experience in a building, because no one went through, a madness last season.
Yeah. Because Matt, I mean, remember a few years back with Auburn when, they were good, but they just got hot from 3 and we kept riding them in Vegas and just winning a lot of money. So it's just teams like that, that have talent, but you're, in words of Chris, you're going to have to hold your nose a little bit, because if those shots start clanking, they're going to get ran out of the house. So sometimes you just got to trust it and, go with the hot team, even though, they're playing the perennial favorite. That's kind of what I mentioned earlier. Sometimes you got to find those lines, take those points, but a lot of times it can be very chalky in this tournament. Just free throws down the stretch, games get extended because kids don't want to go home. So, even a game that's been neck and neck all day, 6 points covers. That's what makes March Madness. It's, it's fun. It's fun in Vegas, just watching people lose, watching them win, and it just creates the chaos, and it's amazing.
So a minute ago, I asked about teams that are fairly secure and how they approach it. You're going to hear a lot of noise about teams on the bubble over the next several days, and that they need a great showing to get in, or maybe even need to get to the final or possibly win their tournament. When you hear Lenardi and bracketology and all these people say, oh, this team's on the bubble, when those teams go to play a game in their conference tournament, is that like needing to win baked into the line already? How much stock should people put into narratives like that? Like, this team's got to show well to have a chance. Is that line going to be inflated a little bit because that's already baked in and people maybe don't know that? How do you guys approach bubble teams in these conference tournament?
I mean, honestly, I've never thought about that at all. I'm not the best, at reading lines for whatever reason, but it could be. It's something to look out for. I'll probably write down, all those bubble teams and see if there is a discrepancy, because I mean that would hit on my system pretty hard, because it's just all about line value through 4 different types of algorithms, and I just compare them and I literally just check boxes, and if they all hit, I play it. That it's, as simple as that. But, for Colorado in the Pac-12, that's something to look forward to, because they started off hot, but they kind of, flamed out at the end. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what their lines are in the tournament.
And I would say to that, I don't think that's baked into the line quite as much. I think that's a narrative that people like to want to back. I would be interested in maybe this season we'll do a little more tracking of some of these bubble teams and look what their splits are. But, the kids on the other side are hearing the exact same narrative. And, if you've got a Wisconsin playing Indiana, and Indiana right now is, according to Lenardi, is the first team out. Like, if I'm Indiana, or if I'm Wisconsin and I'm playing Indiana, I want to bounce them out. Right. Like these are not like when you're in division, in conference, playing against in these tournaments, it's like, I think the other team has every motivation to make sure that you don't go to the conference tournament, especially if it's teams that aren't, that don't like each other. I think kind of goes back to college, if teams have shown that they've been on the bubble or they've worked their way from out of the bubble to in the bubble because they're hot, I think you just ride that. And it kind of gets to one of the other things that I sort of like to back. And I think we saw a great example of this tonight, which is historically, we've all seen how great guard play. All you need is like a great guard to get hot, and they can carry if they're good enough, they can carry. And that's the guy, right? That's the guy you go back to, which is UConn and Kemba Walker, who they were not going to make the conference tournament. Even if they got all the way to their conference championship game and lost, they weren't making the tournament, but they got all the way through. They won that game. They got into the field. They ran the table and they won the natty, right? I think you look at someone like a kid that probably no one's ever heard of, but Peter Criss for Bryant is leading Peter Kiss. And exactly, it's who? Leading the nation in scoring right now in college basketball for Bryant. Bryant beats the crap out of Wagner, and I don't know who in the stands got beat up, but that was crazy. But, he scores 34 points tonight of Bryant's 70, right? It leads me back to, I don't know if you guys remember the kid Max Abrams last year for Oral Roberts. Same type of situation, right? A kid from a small school, led the country in scoring going in, and he took Oral Roberts into the Sweet 16, right? That's an interesting one to sort of keep an eye on when you have just a really dynamic. And we saw it Oregon State last year. It's the same thing. Lucas is the kid. He took them and they rode Lucas all the way through the Pac-12 and all the way through, up until the Sweet 16. Right. So you look at these super hot guards that can really run a team and just put the whole team on their back and carry them. And that's kind of, when Kyle talks about streaks, it's going to start with guard play, in college basketball. That's where I look to try and lean. So this Bryant team to me is a little interesting.
Yeah, I've heard that a few times today, that there will perhaps be a trendy pick to either upset or cover in the first round. We shall see. So ESPN's got an article right now on their college basketball page, Bubble Watch 2022, what's at stake during Champ Week? And I can just imagine someone who's not been super dialed into college basketball this season, checking this out, being like, all right, I'm going to play on these teams that ESPN is telling me have work to do. I'm looking at like work to do, Oklahoma, Miami, Michigan, Indiana, Florida. Like these are some of the teams kind of on the edge.
Notre
And
Dame.
yeah, that's another one. And it almost reminds me a little bit of like a week 17 win and get in the NFL, where you should remind yourself like, well,
Week 18 now.
week 18 now. If this team has to win just to get in, how good are they in the first place, right? Like, so
But Matt, a good team that has to get in the NFL never loses to the worst team in football, do they?
not as a double-digit favorite. No way.
That never happens.
So
Patriots
just be
against the
careful. I really do want to track how these teams do against the spread in their conference tournaments. Like, are they going to make the Michigan line -7 instead of -6 in an early round game? I don't know. We'll have to see about that. But I want to see what you guys wanted to get into here with this one. Are you guys looking at certain conferences? Are you looking at certain teams that you're betting on? Where are we going with conference championship week?
Man, for me, I mean, for me, honestly, like I'm just gonna tomorrow morning. Luckily, I start work at 6 a.m. So I go straight to Ken Palm and I just put every team that's playing each other on a spreadsheet. I then get the current line, and that's where I start. I start looking at differentials within what Ken Palm predicts, because we had a buddy who once told us that that's how they create the lines. So that's been my primary source of, line checking really for the past few years. And, that's kind of the biggest component on making a play for me is the current line. And I don't care if there's sharp movement. I don't care if that thing started at -6 and it's a stay away, and then it, ends up going to -3. And I'm like, well, that fits to me. That's fair game. So I just look for line value. Conference tournaments for me are crazy just because there's a lot of variables. So, I mean, I don't have anybody in particular who I'm looking for. It's just truly about, I really enjoyed the Power Six. I mean, I like the Summit League as well. That's why I was on South Dakota State tonight. These smaller conferences are a lot of fun, but I'll probably be focusing on the Pac-12 because that's obviously what I see the most of. But the Big East is always fun. ACC, SEC, but it's going to be tough because they're just fully loaded. So that's kind of why I try to just really focus in on, value within that line. Just it's my own version of being sharp, I guess. So we'll see, how well that actually pays off. And I know that's different than what Neil does.
Well, here, Kyle, let me follow up. So let's look at an early line tomorrow. How early are games tipping off on Wednesday morning anyway?
I think there's an 8:30 in some random league.
Oh my God, we got 8:30 a.m. Big Sky,
Yeah.
Idaho, Sacramento State. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Both of them went 6 and 14 in the Big Sky. We're gonna have to degen that just to kick off the day. All right, so let's say we got Syracuse, Florida State. All right, I'm seeing Florida State -1. So let's say that that's moved to FSU -2 tomorrow, but Ken Palm says the line should be 1. Is that too small of a shift for you to do anything with it, or like how do you?
Yeah, like I got the Ken Palm line, Florida State -1, it's
Okay, so
-1.
it's
Usually in order for it to tick off, if it's going to be, a push or, like a 1-point differential, the other two markers I use, which are similar to Ken Palm, one of them's the Jeff Sagarin, and the other one's blanking my mind. It's like a proprietary system. So if those, it was kind of like the Delaware game. That one was -2 on Ken Palm, but the other two had them, winning that game by more than 2. And I was like, it's worth the risk. There's no line value per se, but the other markers, just based off the way they're playing, are predicting them to cover that spread. And, sometimes you get lucky like that. But, for me, it kind of takes the emotion out of it, just by playing what I perceive as value over something I put in my head. You said it in our group chat, we have, I think it was during the Super Bowl, you were like, we all have our theories on how this is going to play out. So instead of getting into that and diving deep into, how's their offense, how's their defense, how are they going to shoot, what's their free throw percentage, are they going to make them, are they, who knows? It's like, nobody knows shit. Like it's true. Like you never know, because a 50% shooter might just be clutch and he could go 4 for 4 in the final minute. 90% shooter, as we saw, could miss the front end. So, that's kind of why I like this, because for me, and we've all said it, I'm an emotional bettor. So this for me in college basketball seems to work in past 4 years. I mean, I think you've paid dividends to that during March Madness.
It's been strong. What about you, Neil?
So in early games, and we'll just touch on real quick, Florida State, Syracuse. I'm not touching a Boeheim game in the ACC tournament. I don't understand how they play basketball. I don't know if it's the zone that just confuses me or confuses other people. I just don't understand how they do what they do. It's been too many marches, I think, where it's like they're just sitting there out on the periphery and somehow they, make the tournament as a 12 seed and
win 2 games. Yeah,
right. And they just go on these runs. But I mean, I would say early on, right, you're dealing with teams that have to make deep runs, right? And I think the Syracuse Florida State game though is also interesting because Florida State's a team that's normally in the tournament also, right? They're used to being there as well. So could either of those teams go on a run in the ACC? I mean, the ACC, it's, there's Duke and Notre Dame is beatable, North Carolina is beatable. I think that's one of these leagues where you could see, I think either one of these two teams, you could see Clemson, that's now won 5 games in a row, go on a run for the ACC. I think that ACC is kind of a wide open tournament where you have, Duke's a -150 favorite in this, but it really could be anyone else. I could see Duke maybe getting bounced relatively early, just because they are young, they're inexperienced. They haven't gone through something like this before. We saw how they dealt with emotions, in that North Carolina game, the last one, Coach K's last one. So I could see Duke getting bounced. Who's going to take it from them? I don't know, but I wouldn't be laying -150 for Duke in that one. One of the conferences, and it's something that I've been sort of on for since the start of the season, which luckily for me, I guess, is not making me look so ridiculous, is, in the American, I tweeted out on Sunday, I don't think that there may not be a team that's playing better basketball right now than Memphis, and a team that just physically, when you look at them, that you just don't want to face them, because they check all the boxes. They have great guard play. They're extremely athletic guards who can defend. Jalen Duren is just a monster. He's not like a Cockburn, and I am pronouncing that last name right. I don't care what anyone says. Everyone else pronounces it wrong. It is Cockburn. Read his jersey. But he's not, he's 6'10", but the guy is just yoked. And I just love the way this Memphis team is playing. They've lost 1 game by a point ever since Penny Hardaway started throwing F-bombs out on the podium after a loss. I think from a coaching perspective, with having Larry Brown on that bench and what they've been able to do, they've just beat the shit out of Houston twice. And, that's a really good Houston team. So I'm interested. We were texting. I'm kind of shocked that Houston's a -205 to win that conference tourney. Memphis is +325, which is basically dead even of where I booked it before the season started. I think that's going to be hopefully we get to see the third showing of Memphis Houston. I'm really hoping for that. The other one, Maddie, and I think you can help me up. Is the Mountain West completely wide open? Like,
Yeah, I think 4, maybe 5 teams could win it.
Right. And like, he's not a guard, but if you're going to go to the best player and look to back the best player in a conference, is that not the Fresno State Bulldogs?
That's going to be a wild tournament.
And I think Fresno State, Fresno State sort of has that, you've got a potentially lottery pick on the team who is they're not going to get center stage in this because there's so many things going on at the same time, but he has a chance to sort of make his mark here at the end and sort of try to put a team on his back and carry them. Like, that's the kind of narrative that, if you want to stand out, this is what you have to accomplish. And they need to get through, I think Fresno State's one of the teams, like, their only way they're getting in is if they win their conference tournament.
Yeah.
But I think they're fully capable. Right. I don't think Fresno State's, they may be a dark horse, but they're certainly capable of winning that.
I mean, that would be like Oregon State last year, because they're right in the middle of their pack. When you said 4 or 5 teams, and we got Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, Wyoming, UNLV, and then Fresno State, based on conference records. So, I mean, I think you guys hit it on the head there. I mean, that's wide open, because I probably won't take Boise State. I have a soft spot for San Diego State, but I kind of like that dark horse play. I'll definitely look into that.
And UNLV's no slouch. I mean,
No.
they're not going to get a ton of love because they went 10-8 in conference, but I caught a couple of their last few games and they look good. Mm-hmm. And then you got like Wyoming that lost 3 out of their last 5 after being really, really good, especially at home. Then I think they finally lost at home to your Aztecs, Kyle. That tournament is going to be outstanding. There's some really, goddamn, Colorado State's fucking solid. Boise's favorite, right?
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, that's going to be, I'm curious to see how many teams they get in.
I'm curious. Right. I agree. And I was just going to say, like, I'm curious to see how many unders you fire.
Oh yeah,
and this
Mountain West unders. Yeah,
you and your Mountain West unders, and they're it's worthy of them. They're certainly worthy of them. But I think in a conference tournament setting, when these teams have a lot on the line, we could see some low tight totals.
Yeah, it can get a little tight. Ask God, who was it tonight? I mean, shoot, Kyle, you were talking about South Dakota State's offense, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're according to KenPom, they're 11th in the country in efficiency.
And they've still put up 75 tonight, aided by some free throws at the end. But they went through stretches of that game where they had a hard time. Like, you could tell. I mean, they had all the pressure in the world on them. They were 18-0 in conference. They had to win this one, and you could tell that they tightened up at times. And I mean, North Dakota State just kept hanging around. Phenomenal game. So it happens. These teams get a little tight when there's so much on the line, especially the deeper you get into these conference tournaments. You get into semifinal games, championship games. Fun to look for unders there.
I mean, people have to remember these are kids. Like, they're not going to execute the way they've been doing all year, because the added pressure this time of the year. That's where, I mentioned, the new Steph Curry performance, who's going to step up, for Neil, in the case of a guard. There's a few good big men in the conferences, these days too. So, interior defense, I definitely still love playing a team, Texas Tech a few years ago, just riding a team that plays stout defense and can get offensive rebounds. I'm honestly still kind of heartbroken Texas Tech didn't win it all.
A couple of years ago, man. No, you're right. Whoever can steal. I mean, so many of these come down to under a minute left, who can execute it. When you can steal a possession here or there with even a rebound off a missed free throw, like that shit matters so much.
Yeah.
When so many of these games are tight. And one thing you brought up too, quick, just kind of check yourself moment for people out there who are starting to watch a lot of college basketball this week. Don't be the guy that watches somebody take a bad shot. What the fuck are you doing? Come on. Like, to your point, Kyle, these are kids. Remember what a dumb piece of shit you were. Not you, just you listener.
No, him.
Well,
No,
him
Kyle.
too,
Yeah,
I
Kyle,
guess, at
yeah.
times. But like, for a guy at the bar that's yelling at a kid, like, why did he take that shot? Like, okay, were you perfect when you were 19? Like, did you ever do something dumb? Like, these guys are playing in such a pressure-packed environment. Just fucking enjoy it. It's college basketball. These guys, the vast majority of these guys are not going to be professional basketball players.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny, Matt? That exact same thing you said applies to why college basketball and why March Madness is so great.
Yep.
Because it's those same exact shots that you say that leave a kid's hand that you say to yourself, why the fuck did you shoot that? And that's the one that goes in, right?
And it catches nothing but net. Yeah.
Exactly. And they, nothing happens and you're like, bang, right? And it's like, that's what makes this tournament so great, is that it's depending on what side you're on, that's what makes the tournament so great.
I mean, it's the pride. You can see the emotion. They actually play for the team, on their jersey and not the name on their back. Like, that's, to me, what makes it a lot more enjoyable.
And speaking into that, and I want to touch on one thing, Maddie, and that is, so let's talk about a 2.5 point spread. Why I like to buy it down to 2, and why Chattanooga screwed me last night in what was a phenomenal game and what was a tremendous shot in overtime, but why it should never have gone there. So my personal preference on a line that is 2.5, it is probably the only time I will spend and lay $1.20 to buy that down to an even 2. So let's rewind to that Chattanooga game. Chattanooga gets themselves to up 3, which is perfect. It's where I want. It's Chattanooga up 3 is the reason why I bought this down to 2 from 2.5. Chattanooga up 3. Furman's inbounding the ball with 16 seconds left. If Furman wants to do something crazy and go super early, you let them do it, because then it gives you time. If they go for 2, you're just going to get fouled and you're going to go to the free throw line, right? So you go up 1 with free throws pending. I like the spot I'm in if I'm backing Chattanooga. If they're going to go for a 3, even if they make that 3 to tie it, if it's early enough, you still have 7-8 seconds to give yourself time to get off a good look. But once you go under 5 seconds, you have to foul them, right? Like, you should have fouled, because then it puts Furman at the line. If the kid makes the first free throw and you're up 2, Furman's really kind of in the position where they have to purposely miss the second, right? Because you're not going to have time to, inbound the ball after a miss. You're going down. You've got less than, if you're sub 5 seconds, you really are, chucking up a prayer. So if they go for the miss, perfect. That's what I want to happen, because I'll take my chances. If Chattanooga comes down with the rebound, you're getting fouled. You're going to the line. If they do for some reason get it, you go to overtime at worst case scenario, or the game just ends because they missed the last shot because it's just a chaotic mess, right? If they miss the front end, they can do whatever they want to at the second end. The worst thing I thought was going to happen when I was up 3 with 16 seconds left was that I was going to push. But they let it play out with like 4 seconds left. The kid from Furman, he's up a 3. You get a tie ball game. And at that point, I knew I was dead. But it's that 2.5 number scares me to death. It shouldn't have happened and gone that way yesterday, but it did. And it's unfortunate for me.
It's crazy, man. These spreads under 3. I mean, go back to the Delaware states. I was on Delaware money line because I don't want to fuck around with this shit.
Right.
And Kyle just lays the 2. And I'm like, oh no, it's going to end 1, just like the one yesterday. And it was crazy. They were up what did I tell? God damn, I watched so many games today. They were up. Were they up 2? They were up 1. They make 1. They miss the second. Get the rebound. Shoot 2 more free throws. Of course. So you go from. I mean, for that scenario to play out where they're up 4 at that point is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I thought because I
yeah.
texted you saying you're gonna win and I'm gonna lose because I didn't play the money line.
Yeah,
like you.
It was
And
looking like that was
just
going to
praying,
happen.
like, please push. And then
Oh my God.
I get the glorious green check mark from Action Network, and I'm like, hell yeah.
Because if he makes the second free throw and it's 3, now all bets are off. They can make it 3 to go to overtime. They could miss and then put a putback in and win by 1. Like, I mean, there are so many crazy variables with these scenarios that like Neil just talked about, where it's under 30 seconds. What do you do? Coaches are going to play this different. Guys are going to foul and then you had the South Dakota State game where you get the win on 5 because it's 4 and there's a scramble under the basket after there's a North Dakota State miss. And the foul is called with 0.3 seconds left. Go to the line, drain both free throws, cover the 5. No problem. Like, wow, no problem, right?
I actually can't believe he made the second one. Just I guess it
Oh
didn't.
my
matter if
God.
It was 0.3, but I feel like half the time the player just kind of misses it, so the clock runs out.
And then even in non-close games, did you guys see how Gonzaga covered?
No.
I mean, so that's sitting on 10. I mean, that line closed 12.5. And then there's some silly turnovers at the end, and Gonzaga, and they're just, they're winning their conference tournament. They're getting revenge on St. Mary's. So they're finishing, they're dunking it. They get another one. And I think it ends up landing 13.
13. Yeah.
Like, wow. So people want to talk about buying half points in college basketball, and not like every single point in this shit matters.
Lines are tight, like you said, man. Yeah. I'm already looking at these lines tomorrow, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna find one.
It's a good way to kind of wrap this one up, that this is a really, really hard time of the year to win betting college basketball, because the lines are tight. And they're the tightest they've been all season. And you have a lot of people betting college basketball who haven't watched a lot of college basketball this season. And good luck to everybody out there. Just be really careful. Don't lose your ass betting on schools with players you've never heard of. It's a lot of fun to watch, but just be super careful betting it for sure. NFL. Russell Wilson is a Bronco. That's pretty fucking weird.
Dude, that's crazy. Out of the NFC West, let's go.
First of all, it's great because Seattle's fucked. And it's going to be amazing to watch them languish around last place for a while. Unless they do I don't know what they're doing. So
I'll take Drew Lock. Drew Lock makes the Pro Bowl next year.
Jeez.
Not going to happen.
I know.
And now they're releasing Bobby Wagner. It really seems like they're just kind of admitting, okay.
That's just to save cap space, right?
Yeah. So,
they're going to trade Metcalf,
Dude, they might trade both of those guys. They might trade Lockett and Metcalf. I mean, just at this point, the Rams are who they are. The Niners are still going to be there. Arizona, I guess, is kind of there. If you're Seattle, this might be the time. We talked about this on a pod a few weeks ago. This might be the time to kind of reset. Be like, all right, Russell's gone. Let's just collect assets, and we're playing for 2024 at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's smart. There was clearly a pull on both sides, and get the bank. You got a quarterback. He was supposed to be good. So who knows? Maybe a change of scenery, he can be okay. I don't know, but getting those draft picks is huge.
The only thing about that is
that part, but
this quarterback class in the draft is not considered to be good. So if you're going to maybe not care if you do horrible next year, Drew Lock might be your guy.
Yeah.
And then maybe Seattle's drafting in the top 5 next year, or they've got an extra first round pick. Even if they're drafting 7th, 8th, whatever, you have some ammo to maybe try to move up if there is someone coming out next year.
But Matt, let's not forget, like, I don't think, like, they don't, if I'm not mistaken, like, Seattle doesn't own their own pick this year, and
No.
I don't think they do next year because they traded for Adams.
That's horrible.
Right. So, like, they're kind of in this weird spot where, yes, they really just got back some picks, which aren't going to be great picks.
No,
Yeah,
You
'cause
got to think these are going to
Denver's
be they're going to be in the
28.
20s. Like, these picks are going to be in the 20s, these first rounders, and Seattle doesn't own their own pick. Like, the Jets get those too. So the Jets should be really good any minute now.
Yeah. I thought Seattle, I thought they gave up a first last year, and I know they don't this year, but I'm curious. Okay, let's see.
Was it 2 3s or 3 3s that they gave up?
I thought it was just 2.
It was just
for
2.
Adams. I think they're good in 2020. Well, I don't know how Witness was updated. I'm going to try to find it. I mean, how should people look at Denver? I mean, I'm feeling great about having a Denver 20-1 Super Bowl ticket now. I thought they were going to get Rodgers. That's why I made the damn bet. And they didn't. And they ended up getting Russell Wilson, which Russell Wilson's not Aaron Rodgers, but you can win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. We have actually seen that happen. So what about the Denver side of this for you guys?
I mean, I think that team's more dangerous with Wilson than Rodgers because Wilson is still mobile. Rodgers didn't look as mobile last year. So I mean, to me, Denver's a lot scarier with Wilson back there, especially with the running backs they have. And, I don't think the receivers are as good as what Cincinnati has, but they're pretty damn good. Sutton should be back from his ACL. I know they released Deshaun Hamilton today, I think. But, Judy yet to really make an impact because he hasn't really had a quarterback. And
I wish Denver could have figured out how to keep. Yeah, I wish Denver could have figured out how to keep Noah Fant, though. Like, he did. He would have been a difference maker, I think, given all of that talent on the perimeter that Russ could have picked on.
To be running the ball. They wanted that big guy because they still run the West Coast. I mean, it was probably give us Noah, I bet he was a big impact in that trade. He wasn't a throwaway guy, obviously, but I think he was a critical piece to the Seahawks saying, okay.
Yeah, he's a former first round pick, so he's a nice player. Also, the Jamal Adams trade. So they pulled that trigger before the 2020 season, and they sent a first round pick in 2021 and 2022.
Okay, so it's just this year. Okay,
so they will have their first next year, which I guess if you're a Seahawks fan and you're looking at the future, you're probably hoping that you go 4-13 this season, have a top 6 pick, and then you've got an extra first. And if Denver's really good, then yeah, that's going to be the 27th pick. But still a first round. I mean, you can still do something with that. Those do have some value. So crazy stuff. It's going to be a crazy next few days. And then, I mean, there's still Deshaun Watson out there. Who knows what's going to happen with that? There's more guys that are going to get franchise tag. Guys are going to get asked to take a pay cut, or they're going to get Amari Cooper is probably going to get cut. So there are going to be names out there to be had. Jimmy Garoppolo's having surgery. So much for the Niners being able to trade him for anything, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Crazy time, man. We got a
Wait.
lot of NFL shit happening. March Madness Players is this weekend. If you're a golf fan, Neil, you excited for the Players?
What players? Who's playing?
I think it's Kyle. Is it the biggest purse ever? I think
I heard something like that. Must be nice.
Seriously. So, all right. Anybody got anything else?
Could you imagine if we had anything baseball related to talk about?
Oh man. And then there's those guys.
What's baseball?
There's I think there's proposals being it's almost 10 o'clock on Tuesday night here on the West Coast. I think there are proposals being exchanged. Apparently they met all day today. Now, does anyone care?
They
Is
said
another story.
Yeah, today's the deadline. Otherwise they're canceling another week, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
If they don't get it today. So
maybe we'll wake up to news that they're back on.
This is really screwing me over because the second half of my March Madness trip is putting in all my baseball MLB futures tickets. It's my trip out there where I can get everything done because I live in a stupid state of California where it's challenging and I don't have many outs.
I wonder what would happen if they actually get a deal done in the next week. But maybe they say, okay, it's gonna be 150 game season. The books would have to
Yeah, but I think they have that number already because I remember they basically when they came out and they acknowledged that they were doing a 60 game season, and during the COVID year, like they had season win totals for that. So I'm going to venture to guess that it's already ready. And if, the line is just going to be if you were supposed to win 57% of your games and we're going to play 140, it's 140 times, 57. Interesting. Yeah. So, and I think they'll just get numbers out because I heard WinBet, even when there was no deal, and there obviously hasn't been, like WinBet was taking season win totals. They had posted their season win totals and they were taking bets with the stipulation that there had to be 158 games played. Yeah. So all those are squashed, but I got to imagine if they get a deal done, they can get numbers posted fairly quickly. The interesting caveat to that is just going to be like, okay, from what your schedule was, we're just canceling out the 2 weeks. So if your schedule had 2 series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, are those just canceled and now you don't play the Dodgers? If you had 18 games against the Dodgers, now you only have 12, because that makes a pretty big difference. So on a season win total bet. So yeah. I don't know what they're doing to scheduling.
Is that going to create schedule imbalances? And the other thing too that's going to be tough to fire win totals right now is there's a ton of free agents who haven't signed yet.
Right?
So it's like if somebody signs Freddie Freeman, like that's gonna greatly increase their.
I want Freddie Freeman
chances. So, man, lots of stuff, exciting stuff coming up. All right, for Kyle, for Neil, we will be back soon with the rest of the guys. In the meantime, keep an eye out on the Twitter at FadeU Sports for the Battle of the Dads. Neil's done a great job getting those videos put together, and we've been getting those out as soon as we possibly can. So give everybody a follow. Follow our Twitter at FadeU Sports. You can get all the other Twitter handles there. And let's just remind
the videos would be out quicker if it wasn't for Chris Duke.
Yeah, a guy fucking plays golf every day, and he can't. I don't know.
Huge shade. Matt's picks are in. I haven't even woken up and I wake up to Matt's tweet with his picks that are in, and I'm sitting. He knows we try to post them at least before 4 so people can see 3:45 after he takes a swing at the 17.
Says the guy who sent his play after it started.
Okay, I didn't know Bellarmine started it too.
It's fine. Neither did I. Dude, you're the two of you are literally two of the most trustworthy guys. That's why I'm just like,
I sent the ticket. I have the ticket. The ticket was there.
Yeah. No, I know. It's just they're winning by 10, so it's just like could have easily just not done it.
Jeez. But yeah, everybody should at hazmat suit 23 and yell at him to get his picks in a little sooner. That would be great. But we'll call it a pod. Just remind everybody who wants to say it this time. Chris isn't here. What happens? What happens when you bet? Oh, here's a good one tomorrow. The MEAC tournament quarterfinal. We have Norfolk State 21-6 against 2-25 Delaware State. What happens sometimes when you bet on scum like that?
You might just lay in a big professor diarrhea.